I'm David William Turner of the William Turner Gallery. Today we're here to speak with John Morse about his latest installation, Inside. John, could you tell us a little bit about your beginnings and how you got involved in art?
When I was 3 years old, an uncle taught me how to draw a 5-pointed star, and then also a 4-pointed star that you could then put crosses through that would go on to make a more detailed star. And the next day, I drew those stars again and again and again, and I was fascinated with the whole idea that you could draw. When I was 8 years old, I had a very bad leg break that laid me up in a body cast and basically in bed for 6 months. And during that time, I had an at-home tutor who would 3 days a week come, and he had seen my little drawings and said, you know, you should put these in the county fair. Let me do that for you. And he did, and they won a little ribbon, and I was so pleased with it. And from that point on, I thought, I'm an artist.
John, tell us how this installation was originally conceived. I know there's much more information on the development of this idea.
When I first moved to New York City in the early 80s, one of the things that I was most fascinated by was the updrafts of the air that would carry plastic bags and just swirl them around way into the sky. You know, one of the things with the air is that it's an infinity space, and one of the rare times that you get to examine that space in any sort of logistic is when there's something in that space. So this is one of the reasons we like to look at snow, I think, is because you have a chance to see the snowflake at 2 inches, 10 feet, 100 feet, 1,000 feet. And so an infinity space is actually measured. And these plastic bags did this sort of thing where you could see, well, that bag, because you know it's a 15-story building, that bag is 150 feet above me, and now it's 10 feet above me, and now it's gone. So I thought it'd be great to do a piece of art that you could cast into the air and have that, where that bag is, have that piece of art be this moving thing. So I thought, oh, you know, a figure would be nice floating through the air. And so I had a chance to visit Marc de Suveros' studio at La Vie de Forme in Chalon-sur-Saône, France. And I took these very heavy-duty garbage bags and cut out, laid down on them, split them open, laid down on them, and had a friend outline me, and I cut them out and then would throw them off the highest part of the floating studio there. And it gave me a chance to test this thing. And the first thing you realize is that plastic has weight. And so I gradually went to lighter and lighter plastic and split open garbage bags, black garbage bags, and that super thin, probably 2/1000th of an inch thickness. And then I would start to throw these figures off of buildings. And then I learned to put in armature, a very thin wire across the crown and the shoulders and at the feet. And it kept them in their two-dimensional space, and then would suspend them off of bamboo fishing poles off the top of buildings. And would just see them floating in the air. And got complaints from the neighbors because they said they saw these creepy figures outside. I then made them into a series of mobiles, which I studied for years, and then made them in 2 layers and sealed the edges, and then inflated them with helium and let them go in at a Socrates Sculpture Park in New York City. And that informed me a lot more. They were then shown as mobiles and black figures in San Francisco at the San Francisco Design Center. And then for this space, when I was offered a chance to do an installation, I wanted to do something that was different. I tested a black figure, a white figure, and then a mirrored figure. And the mirrored figure gave me something that I had no idea I was going to get, but it gave me something that I responded to. And so I then went on to do multiples and to create it as a series of mobiles.
I know much of your work concerns the interplay between dimensions. Could you explain this in further detail?
There is general knowledge of the second dimension, 2 dimensions, and there's general knowledge of 3 dimensions. And I'm fascinated with where the second and third dimension meet. If you look at where places meet, there's always a great deal of energy, and it's largely often unexplored. If you think of a swing, child is on the swing, the child swings to and the child swings fro, but at one point the swing stops, a full stop. And that stop contains all the energy that happened before and all the energy that's going to happen afterwards. So that point, that stop, even though we think of it in a blink of an eye, it's very potent. We know the second dimension, we know the third dimension, but they must meet somewhere. This is one of the reasons that photographs have great resonance, because we get to see a 3-dimensional depth in a 2-dimensional form. Movies and television also have this same sort of resonance. Reflections, a true 2-dimensional thing, have this force because they show you a 3-dimensional image. A shadow is a true dimensional, only length and width. Yet, if a shadow is cast over a 3-dimensional space, is the shadow still 2 dimensions? Or now is it a 3 dimension? If you think of after images, you stare at a red space and you look at a white wall, then you see green. If that after image is cast on a curved wall, is it now a 3-dimensional image? So for me to look for this space, to look for this place where the second and third dimensions meet, and you wedge it open and say, it's not necessarily just black and just white, it's where they meet not only gray, but the color spectrum that is between black and white. And this place between second and third dimensions, I believe, has a great place to be investigated. These figures are 5/1000ths of an inch thick. If you took every figure that was in this room and stacked one upon the other, it would make 1/100th of an inch thickness. If you took all of the volume that they occupy, it's less than 1 cubic inch. However, that 1 cubic inch of volume fills up this entire gallery space, all the square footage of this space. So you have basically nothing filling up everything, because a 2D has been introduced into a 3D space.
John, tell us what's up next after Inside. Where are you off to next?
In a group show here in Atlanta of my collage portrait that I'm still working on. Lord willing, it'll be done by the opening of the show, which is the 11th of December. And prior to that, on the 4th of December, I'm having an inaugural opening at Scoop Studio in Charleston, South Carolina. And so that's what I'm aiming for right now. And that'll be, the one in Charleston, it'll be collage portraiture.